Hello everyone! So I'm here to talk about the reading skills. One of you has been asking for some tips. So basically, the main basis of the reading test for IELTS is vocabulary, okay? We'll see that, how to approach it later on. But another technique that I want to talk to you today is about the skimming and scanning. So usually, most of my students find difficult the different types of questions in the IELTS reading. Actually, that's not really important. Don't get too obsessed with the different types of questions. It's just the way you apply the reading techniques into your exam. Okay, so it's not that the type of questions are very difficult and that's why you do very badly at the reading test. It is that maybe you're lacking vocabulary skills and you're lacking the skimming and scanning skills correctly. So that's the main reason you find yourself struggling in the reading test. So if we speak about how to skim in the reading test, this is basically to read something in general, okay, in a very quick way, so you get the main idea of the text. Just that. This is where I advise you to apply the speed reading technique. So you try to read everything for 1 minute and a half, okay? In your same process, try to look for topic sentence. So what people usually do here is they read the beginning of the paragraph and the end of the paragraph. So usually the middle of the paragraph is to give examples and stuff like that. So for the first time round, that's not really important. What you're doing is you're creating a general idea of the text. So you just need to look for topic sentences, which mainly appear at the beginning of your paragraph or at the end. Usually, the final sentence can reveal a conclusion or how the text is going to continue in the next paragraph, so it's fundamental that you pay attention to these kind of topic sentences. When you're skimming, don't waste your time looking for unknown words or trying to make sense of the unknown words. That's not really important for the moment, okay? You'll need context for that. So you just need to get the general idea of what the text is about. This skimming is a very useful technique if the task just requires a general understanding of the text. Usually for the summary completion type of questions and these kind of things. Now, if you need to look for more specific information, then you would have to use scanning. Scanning means that you're looking for specific information in the text, and it's something that we all do when we are reading. So, usually you go through the text very quickly, but looking for specific words. So, my advice is by the time you are scanning the text, you circle or underline keywords that may be important, you don't know yet, may be important to help you answer the question. In the IELTS reading test, guys, this is an essential technique. Questions like short answer questions, sentence completion or note completion, and other type of questions will test this ability to find specific information in the text. So one trick that I always tell my students, and you may seem to understand it, but you don't really get it 100% up to the point that you confuse it. The main technique that I always tell my students is forget about the options. If you are in a multiple choice question, okay, forget about the options. Focus just on the question, okay, on the question of the text, and try to find in the text where you have the information about that question, not the options. You are not going to need to find the options in the text. You need to be able to locate and, kind of like locate, pinpoint, where is this question talked about or discussed in the reading passage. That's the main point. And when you've located the main paragraph where this question is answered, then is when you look at the options and you try to find some kind of like paraphrasing with some kind of like good approach to find the correct ABCD answer. So this scanning technique is very useful because you identify the keywords in the question and then you need to be able to quickly find a part of the text that relates to that question, as I said before. You simply don't have time to read and reread again very carefully all the text for each answer. So the faster that you can focus your attention on one paragraph or maybe a little sentence or phrase, the faster you can work on finding the correct answer. So once again, skimming and scanning, crucial tools for dealing with the time pressure you have, because remember, you only have 20 minutes for each passage. Alright guys, so secrets to getting a bar 9 in the reading IELTS test. The IELTS reading test is not really a reading test. Let me say that again. The IELTS reading test is not actually testing your reading skills. That's why you will need to use techniques as scanning and skimming effectively, but for any type of question. What separates a student who gets bar 9 and everyone else is vocabulary. The reading test is not actually a reading to prove your reading skills. It is a vocabulary test. And please let me say that again. It is a vocabulary test, guys. You have problems with reading, you need to improve your vocabulary range. That's basically it. Why? Because in the reading text, when you're finding the answers, they will never give you the exact word that appears in the questions or in the options. They will give you synonyms. They will give you different paraphrasing. So that's when your vocabulary skill comes to place. So remember, don't try to look for the options in the text. Try to find where is this question answered in the text, and now let's work on synonyms. Focus on the keywords in the question and in the options and try to find some connections in terms of synonyms or paraphrasing. So, typical question, how do I improve my vocabulary? Students ask me this all the time, and I always tell them that reading is the single most effective way to improve your vocabulary. How you improve your reading? By reading, guys. So I already gave you some links where you can find useful material, real material, and these are usually the places where IELTS examiners take the material, take the reading passages to create the IELTS test. So go for magazines, newspapers, usually like scientific magazines, for example. My recommendation, guys, is do not read IELTS reading papers all the time. Remember what I told you, when I was working in the IELTS examination center, we were just doing one reading text a week. Okay, so the rest of the time we were actually reading newspaper articles or magazines to discuss in the lesson. That's it. This is how you improve it. The IELTS reading test is just for you to prove that you are actually progressing, but just that. So it is much better if you read about something interesting for you, something that it appeals to you. If you do this, you're more likely to learn something, and especially you don't get bored. It is true that I tell my students to do something you enjoy, but then do something different out of your comfort zone. So in that case, if you go to the newspapers websites, you find very different articles by different topics. So it could be fashion, health, current affairs, international news. So I always tell my students to do something they enjoy at the same time as choosing something that you would never read about. Because remember, the IELTS test will speak about many different topics. So in that case, you need to be ready for all of them. So go for fashion, go for environment, go for technology, go for sports, an array of different topics. When you are reading, you must record and review new words. When you see a new word, underline it. Write it down, okay, in a notebook or something like this. So then you can go back and try to guess the meaning. So that would help you understand better and better the reading tests in the IELTS exam because of the context. Okay, so you need to make this practice of guessing the meaning before looking it up in the dictionary. How can you practice your reading test? Well, in this case, I tell my students to do it in two ways. The way under the exam conditions, and later on in a slow way. So first, we need to do it for the first time under the exam conditions because you need to be ready for that time management and that kind of pressure. It's one of the most important things of the exam, that you do everything on time and you take control of the exam and not the way around. Once you've finished and you checked your answers and you've checked what band score you would get, then you go back to the reading passage and you do it slowly, meaning you will get the words that you didn't understand first time round, but you guessed the meaning, but now you'll check it. You'll check it out in the dictionary. Pay special attention to the answers you got wrong and you try to figure out what's the reason you got it wrong. So you try to find the keywords and the synonyms and the connection between the text and the options. I promise you guys, if you do this enough times, you'll see a pattern. So you'll see that the technique helps you find things that appear all the time. And remember, there is no magic technique for each type of question in the day of the exam. The main techniques are these ones. If you really take control of them, and you'll see that your reading scores will rocket. So as I said, step 1, get some real practice tests. Remember, just reliable material by IELTS, Cambridge, British Council or IDP websites. Step 2, you analyze your mistakes. Next step, you learn from your mistakes and you work on your weaknesses. So remember, improve the skimming, scanning techniques, improve your vocabulary range, take control of your own strategy, be careful with spelling, write the reading answers in capital letters, all capital letters, and you play safe. In the true, false, not given, or the matching or the headings type of questions, again, the same trick applies. You need to read the statements first and later read the extracts. Again, speed reading, skimming, scanning. You need to scan the text, locate the information with synonyms, be ready to find synonyms and paraphrasing so you are able to relate it to the questions directly. Take your time, be aware of these different strategies and put it into practice. Bye bye!